Welcome back to the Crypt, everyone. I'm Gory G. Now, this time I'm going to talk about a film that is definitely not a hidden gem, or has it ever been forgotten. But this film, I have some history with. The film is turning 37 years old this year, and has a third part to the film that has been long awaited, that is coming out in the fall. At least it's scheduled to, so fingers crossed. 37 years ago, I was 10 years old, and I fell in love with the greatest horror comedy film of all time.
When you exhibit perhaps the greatest comedy motion picture of all time.
I mean, this is going to make E.T. look like Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know what I'm saying? This is going to be one HFM. You know what I mean? This is going to be the kind of thing that your children are going to say, Dad, I can look up to you now, and I never could before. Isn't it worth it? Isn't it worth it to...
Columbia Pictures has spared no expense to make this a fine science fiction comedy spectacle.
What a bunch of good sports they are.
And it is PG.
Oh,
I'm fucking telling you, it's PG.
It's going to be an exciting time for all of us, and I really hope that you can all be a part of this. And if not, well, it's all right. We got some Canadian film board stuff we want you to look at.
Right to Ghostbusters, cool heads under fire, never mess with Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters. The brave, the best, the only Ghostbusters.
Line anytime, take it right to Ghostbusters.
I'm going to begin with a little story. The year was 1984. The month was June. Ronald Reagan was the President of the United States. Time After Time was a hit with Cyndi Lauper, and I had just turned 10 years old. It was then that I saw a trailer for a movie that was coming out on the 8th of June. I had to see this film. So a friend and I walked down on a Saturday night, and we did something that we never did before. We went inside the lobby of our local movie theater, the Prince Edward Cinema, which unfortunately is no longer there. And we asked to use the washroom. After using said washroom, we waited. And then it got busy. So we exited the washroom and made our way into the theater, went to the front seats, crouched down, and waited for the movie to start. Little did I know, I was about to witness a film that would forever change my life and spark my love of movies forever. That film was none other than...
Ghosts. They're real. They're here. And someone's got to stop them. It's a job for professionals. It's a job for the Ghostbusters.
Hey, anybody see a ghost?
They're the best. The brave. The only. Ghostbusters.
That's right, Ghostbusters, if you hadn't already guessed. I know what some of you are probably thinking, and it's like he was such a bad kid for sneaking into a movie theater at such a young age. But I really wanted to see this film. So much so that I snuck in 5 more times after this first time. Then I paid a 7th time when my parents had taken me to see the movie for the first time. You might say I was a little hooked on the film. But as I sat there and the movie began, and you watch an elderly librarian putting away books, and then you start to see them move off of the shelves. And the Dewey Decimal cards start to fly out from behind her as she's walking down the hallway. You're drawn into something that something's up and is something I've never seen on a film before. And just as the lady screams in horror, we get a song that will forever be the greatest movie theme of all time, in my opinion. As the movie begins, we're introduced to Dr. Peter Venkman, played by the legendary Bill Murray, who's conducting a test of ESP on a nerdy student and an attractive female student. Venkman flirts and lies about her abilities while giving electric shocks to the male student with a little bit of glee. Just then, Dr. Ray Stantz, played by fellow Canadian and another legend, Dan Ackroyd, who enters frantically, talking about the sighting of a ghost at the city library and insisting that they leave right away to check it out. Upon arriving at the library, Venkman and Stantz meet up with our third member of the team, Dr. Egon Spengler, played by the late, great Harold Ramis. He was my favorite character. He was a great actor, very dry, but his character was played to perfection. A role that he didn't want to play himself, but he took the role, and the world's grateful for that.
This reminds me of the time you tried to drill a hole through your head. Remember that?
That would have worked if you hadn't stopped me.
That line was actually ad-libbed by Harold Ramis, which is a lot of lines in this film were ad-libbed by the actors. As the three men are down in the library where the ghost was supposedly seen, their investigation, they come across the ectoplasm that was left behind, and Venkman is asked to collect some specimens.
Raymond, look at this.
Ectoplasmic residue.
Venkman, get a sample of this.
It's the real thing.
When somebody blows their nose and you want to keep it.
I'd like to analyze it.
There's more over here.
I'm getting stronger readings here.
Whoa. Oh. Ah.
While down there, they find a tall, symmetrical stack of books from the floor to the ceiling, and then narrowly escaping a falling bookcase.
Egon, your mucus. This happened to you before? Oh, first time?
The bookcase falling was actually unscripted. It really did fall because the crew forgot to secure it a little bit more than they should have, and it fell. But the director thought it would look great, added more tension, so they left it in the film. Who knew? Turning the same corner from earlier, they see the ghost. A transparent form of an elderly lady reading a book. So having no idea what to do, Venkman begins to talk to the ghost. She shushes him before Stantz proclaims he knows what to do.
The usual stuff isn't working. Okay, I have a plan. I know exactly what to do. Now stay close. Stay close. I know. Do exactly as I say. Get ready. Ready? Get her!
Get her! I love that scene. As they walk back to the university, Egon announces that based on his readings, they now have a very good chance of actually catching a ghost and holding it indefinitely. But as they get back to their area in the school, the dean is there taking all of their equipment. He tells them that their grant has been terminated due to their shoddy and highly suspect findings, research, and their overall methods. So Peter and Ray sit drinking on campus, talking about their bleak prospects, before Peter suddenly suggests this turn of events has happened for a reason, and that they should start a business for themselves as the world's first firm for paranormal investigations and eliminations.
For whatever reasons, Ray, call it fate, call it luck, call it karma. I believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe that we were destined to get thrown out of this dump.
For what purpose?
To go into business for ourselves.
After Peter convinces Ray to take out a mortgage on his childhood home to use it as startup collateral, the trio checks out an empty firehouse to use as their headquarters. We then switch to a part of the story where we meet Dana Barrett, played by the lovely and talented Sigourney Weaver. This is one of her first starring roles in a film, and a comedy at that. She arrives at home with her groceries, and we also meet Louis Tully, played to absolute perfection by Rick Moranis. And you're still missed, Rick, so come back to movies, please. Once inside her apartment, she's putting away her groceries, and she notices that her eggs are now leaping out of the shelves and cooking themselves on her countertop. She then hears a sound coming from her refrigerator. She slowly opens it and sees more than she bargained for. The voice of the terror dog that you hear that says Zool is voiced by director Ivan Reitman. Dana then visits the firehouse, which is now the home to the Ghostbusters, and asks if they could take a look at what she saw in her home. Peter, of course, volunteers to check her out. I mean, check out her apartment.
I hate this. I like to torture him. That's right, boys. It's Dr. Venkman.
Once there, of course, Peter flirts, and flirts badly, but somehow his charm kind of gets through, you know. Otherwise, the movie wouldn't progress. But once he's there, he doesn't find any evidence of any ghosts. But he assures Dana that, you know, they'll look into it and see what they can find. Later in the evening, as the Ghostbusters are having their celebratory meal for their very first customer, Janine, their sarcastic and unflappable secretary, played by Annie Potts, which is a completely underrated role. She does phenomenal in this one and in its sequel. They finally get an urgent call that a ghost needs to be removed immediately.
You do? You have? No kidding. Uh-huh. Well, just give me the address. Yes, of course. Oh, they'll be totally discreet. Thank you. We got one!
So the boys arrive at the Sedgwick Hotel. The Ghostbusters assure the manager that they'll take care of the ghost, and they head up to the 12th floor.
You know, it's just occurred to me we really haven't had a completely successful test of this equipment.
I blame myself.
So do I.
Well, no sense worrying about it now.
Why worry? Each of us is wearing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on his back.
Yep. Let's get ready. Switch me on.
Almost immediately, as the Ghostbusters exit the elevator, they get to test their proton packs.
What the hell are you doing?
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm sorry. We thought you were someone else.
Once they split up, it's Ray who eventually finds the ghost. A rotund green blob eating everything on a service cart, who will affectionately become to be known as Slimer in the cartoon. This was a sight when I was a child that pretty much blew my mind when I see this ghost floating there. And then, of course, we get a very iconic scene.
Don't move.
He slimed me.
Egon radios and tells them that the ghost has gone into the ballroom. While in the ballroom, Egon issues a warning to the others not to cross the streams.
There's something very important I forgot to tell you.
What?
Don't cross the streams.
Why?
It would be bad.
I'm fuzzy on the whole good-bad thing. What do you mean bad?
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
All right, that's bad. Okay. All right, important safety tip. Thanks, Egon.
Once finished, the Ghostbusters leave in a very classy way.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Soon we are introduced to the fourth and final member of the Ghostbusters, Winston Zeddemore, played absolutely great by Ernie Hudson. His role is smaller than it should have been, and that's only because originally Eddie Murphy was supposed to play the role, and they would have met him during the ghost chasing scene in the hotel. But since Eddie Murphy had a little film called Beverly Hills Cop, a small little film, no one's ever really heard of it, he took that instead. So Ernie Hudson got the role. And I think Ernie Hudson would have, he actually proves that he is a better choice for the role. No offense to you, Eddie Murphy.
Do you believe in UFOs, astral projections, mental telepathy, ESP, clairvoyance, spirit photography, telekinetic movement, full trance mediums, the Loch Ness Monster, and the theory of Atlantis?
If there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say.
Also in the film, we meet a large protagonist by the name of Walter Peck. Also, he played another jerk as Roger Thornburg in Die Hard 1 and 2. He never liked how he was treated after this film because of some of the slurs that are called him in the film, and he kind of had regret against that, but, you know, it made him famous, and, I mean, he plays a dick in another film, so I wouldn't have really looked at it as a bad thing. You're getting the attention anyway, so that's just me, I don't know. Egon is later talking to Winston and Ray, and he explains that his latest research is indicating that the city's experiencing a colossal increase in paranormal activity.
What do you mean, the big?
Well, let's say this Twinkie represents the normal amount of psychokinetic energy in the New York area. According to this morning's sample, it would be a Twinkie 35 feet long, weighing approximately 600 pounds.
That's a big Twinkie.
We could be on the...
Then when you thought the movie couldn't get any weirder, we're back to Dana's apartment as she sits and talks on the phone for a moment, and she's sitting in her easy chair when suddenly she hears growling from the kitchen. Before she can react, not only does it become weird for Dana, it also happens for Lewis in his apartment as he's throwing a little party for all of his clients, when there seems to be an uninvited guest.
Does anybody want to play Parcheesi? Okay, who brought the dog?
Peter eventually arrives at the apartment for a date that he had with Dana, stepping over carnage at Lewis's party, and knocks on Dana's door. As she opens it, she's dressed in a slinky red dress.
Hello? That's a different look for you, isn't it?
Are you the key master?
Not that I know of.
Are you the key master?
Yes.
So once inside her apartment, Peter talks to her and tries to assure her, and surprisingly resists the aggressive advances that she, puts upon Peter, and shows that he's actually a pretty stand-up guy. Bravo, Peter. You're not quite the bad guy everybody thinks you are.
Dana, just relax. Come on. Dana. Can I talk to Dana?
There is no Dana, only Soul.
What a lovely singing voice you must have.
Once again, the voice is provided by director Ivan Reitman. hidden talent. The NYPD then do a drop-off of the Ghostbusters. They drop off Louis Tully, who seems to be acting a little different, and so Egon says that he would take a look at him. He looks at him briefly and takes him inside. Louis reveals that his name is Vince Clortho, Keymaster of Gozer. He goes on about the history of Gozer and how the gods assumes various forms and would mean the destruction of civilization he targets. During the exam, Peter calls and tells Egon that the developments with Dana and that she is the gatekeeper. He suggests that maybe we should get the two of them together, but Egon thinks that that would be a bad idea. The next day, Walter Peck, he returns with a court order. A cop and a Con Edison worker intend on shutting down the storage facility. They try to talk him out of it. It doesn't work. Things get heated. The power grid gets shut off. And then we hear a warning buzzer and a loud rumbling. And then this is where the movie really takes a turn. Because, unfortunately now, all of the ghosts that they have caught are loose on New York City.
So let's make some. It's magic. It's magic.
As the ghosts run rampant through the city, in a cute little montage, we also get to see Slimer again. Most of the ghosts all seem to converge on one area, Dana's apartment. The Ghostbusters now sit in jail as they discuss the history of the hotel. They look over blueprints and talk about the history and realize that the hotel has strange metals that were used, not the proper ones that would have been used at the time, and that the hotel was built by Ivor Shandor, who is basically a cult leader, believer in ghosts, devil worshipping, you name it. And he built the hotel for a specific reason, which we will eventually find out what that reason is. Now, coincidentally enough, the jail in which they filmed in was a prison, and it was reported to be haunted in real life. When they'd watch the dailies, there were scratches with no apparent physical cause for them. Ivan Reitman was concerned about returning there, and the crew was very relieved to find enough footage to complete the scene without having to return again to film again. So, the Ghostbusters were a little leery of real ghosts. The Ghostbusters eventually are taken from jail to go and visit the mayor. And also Walter Peck is there to plead his case, to tell them that they're charlatans. The mayor listens, and both are arguing their sides. Peck, of course, claims that the Ghostbusters are con artists and use nerve gas to force people to hallucinate and have visions of ghosts. Winston steps up and defends the things he's seen as real.
These things are real. Since I joined these men, I have seen shit that'll turn you white.
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Unfortunately for Peck, numerous city officials present evidence of bizarre phenomena in which the Ghostbusters have the only possible explanation. Ray reveals that the city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportions.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
The deciding edge is done by Venkman, as he appeals to the possibility of the mayor could be responsible for saving the lives of millions of registered voters. So convinced, the mayor throws Peck out of his office and offers whatever support that the Ghostbusters need. Now by this time as a kid, I'm sitting here watching this and it's like it leads up and you know it's coming to this big climactic battle. And you hear the music and you see the crowd gathered outside of this hotel. And you know something amazing is going to happen. As the Ghostbusters stand out in the middle of the road, it starts to crack and crumble and it opens up and swallows the Ghostbusters. And as a kid you're like, oh my god, like you can't take the Ghostbusters now, you know. You haven't seen that many movies, you didn't know they were going to actually, like, you know, kill off your main characters. They'd never do that. Come on. Once they emerge and the crowd cheers and they head back into that building, you knew you were going to be in for something big. Once the Ghostbusters are inside, they climb the stairs to Dana's 22nd floor apartment. The Ghostbusters arrive to find Dana's apartment burned out and more or less destroyed. They then see a hidden staircase in the kitchen. But where do they go?
They go up.
When the Ghostbusters finally reach the top of wherever those stairs went, they're in time to see Louis and Dana transform into terror dogs as the large portal opens up in front of them, and we meet Gozer, who is an exotic female. She's tall, dark flat top hair, blood red eyes, and is played by, now I'm going to butcher this name, so bear with me, Slavica Jovan. And I know I really horribly killed that name. I'm really sorry. She also played the Twisted Nurse in the House on the Haunted Hill remake in 1999. She had other roles, but she was never a lead actress. She was a model at the time. So Peter gets Ray to talk to her.
Are you a god?
No.
Then
After Ray's unsuccessful interaction with Gozer, Winston gives one of my favorite lines from this entire film.
Ray, when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes!
Once the boys regroup, they attack Gozer, but she jumps clear.
Nimble little minx, isn't she?
Once she lands on the pedestal, they decide, we're going to blast her one more time. And she disappears, disintegrates. They start to celebrate. They think, this is great. We defeated her. It was a lot easier than we thought. You know, they get the tools, they get the talent. But, alas, that's not what happens. You hear the voice of Gozer saying, choose the form of the Destructor. And Peter tells everyone to clear their minds and thinking of nothing, so no form will be taken. But it's too late. Ray admits he did his best, but something just popped into his head. Something he thought could never harm anyone. And that's where we meet...
It can't be. What did you do, Ray?
Oh, shit.
It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Mother puss bucket.
Unsuccessfully, the proton packs only melt a bit and set fire to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It is at that point that Egon, a little bit of foreshadowing was done early in the film, Egon suggests that they cross the streams.
We'll cross the streams.
Excuse me, Egon. You said crossing the streams was bad.
Cross the streams.
You're going to endanger us. You're going to endanger our client, the nice lady who paid us in advance before she became a dog.
Not necessarily. There's definitely a very slim chance we'll survive.
Now, this is where I'm going to end the film. And not because, like, you know, everybody kind of knows how the movie ends, but if you haven't, I urge that you watch this film. No matter what you've heard about it, in 1984, this was a film that blew people's minds. It was supposed to be just a comedy. There was tons of money thrown at the film that you never expected that it would have the budget it did for a film that's just about guys hunting ghosts. Sounds like a simple story. But no. The humor, the storytelling, the acting, everything about this is like the perfect storm. So do yourself a favor if you have never seen Ghostbusters, which I find hard to believe, but there's a lot of younger people out there and some older people that probably just never thought of giving it a chance. I urge you, I beg you, please watch this film. You'll thank me for it. Now, I'm going to say I'm very excited to see Ghostbusters Afterlife whenever it comes to theaters. Well, fingers crossed. It's finally going to bring a wrap up to the story that we've been itching for a long time. In my opinion, there's only been Ghostbusters 1 and 2, the video game, and now Afterlife. We don't talk about that other one. The cartoons, obviously. But, yeah. We're not going there to that other Ghostbusters film. No. Oh, and yeah, I'm not going to sneak in to see this movie. I'm actually going to pay for it. No, I'll pay for it. As cool as that would be to kind of relive my childhood, no, I'm going to be a good guy and I'm going to pay to see the film. Because it's also directed by Ivan Reitman's son. So, it's in good hands in my opinion. So thank you once again for visiting me at the Crypt. I hope to see you again. I'm Gory G. Goodbye. Also, they find a tall stack of symmetrically stacked... That didn't make any sense. I said stacked twice. Yeah. They also discover a tall, symmetrically stacked... Also, while down there, they discover a tall, symmetrically stacking of books. That was a slow little... Yeah, I'm going to do that again. While down there, they also find a tall, symmetrically stacked... I can't get past that. While down there, they also find a very tall, symmetrically stacked set of books. No, I still can't get that past. It's not symmetrically stacked. Symmetrically stack. A symmetrical stack of books. Simple, isn't it? You'd think. It's not. Not quite as easy as it looks. Probably for you guys, not for me. While down there, they discover a tall, symmetrically stacked set of... See? Did it again. While down there, they find a tall, symmetrical... Sound. Well, not even the symmetrical, the things, those... Yeah.